Let's start by putting our name at the top. Chapter 6. This is a review for the Chapter 6 test. I've prepared some examples, and I'm going to solve them. You have also 7 examples that I'd like you to solve. Take your best shot. Notice the first question asks us to sketch a graph of the inequality on a number line. Inequality means not equal. If something's not equal, it could be less than or equal to, not equal to, greater than, or greater than or equal to. I usually start by making myself a key, like you see to the right. In the key, I always identify what's an open circle and what's a closed circle. Open circle or unshaded circles are less than, greater than, or not equal to because they're exclusive. The value that's given is not included. For instance, if I said you have to be 18 or older to vote, you could say the age is greater than 17. On the closed circle, you have less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, or equal to. Notice my first example says less than or equal to. If you have a hard time remembering which is less than and which is greater than, look at the inequality and think, which way does it point? Notice less than points to the left. Now I'm going to sketch that graph. I'm going to place 0 and count 8 spaces. Since it's positive 8, I'm going to go 8 spaces to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's my positive 8. Now I have to decide, is it an open circle or a closed circle? Remember, anything with an equal to is a closed or shaded circle. Now I have to decide which side of the number line do I shade. Do I shade to the right or the left? It's no coincidence that a less than points to the left, just like the arrow on the end of a number line. When I shade in my number line, I don't have to shade the entire number line, as long as I put an arrow at the end. So try number 1. In the second example, I have to solve the inequality. Solving involves finding the value of x, which is my variable in this example. Notice I have the x on both sides of my inequality. Just like an equation, there's 2 sides to this inequality. I have to treat them equally because anything I do to the left side, I'll have to do the right side. I start by asking myself questions such as, can I distribute? And if I can, then what can I distribute? On the left side of the inequality, notice the negative sign out in front. If you don't find a number, remember it's a 1. In this case, a negative 1. On the other side of the inequality happens to be a 3. Notice the minus sign in front of it. I'll distribute it as a negative 3. So negative 1 will get distributed to 2x and to the minus 6. The negative 3 will get distributed to the 8 and the 4x. The only thing not being distributed is the 10, so I'll bring it down. Negative 1 times 2x and negative 1 times negative 6 will make negative 2x plus 6. Remember, a negative times a negative makes a positive. A negative 3 times positive 8 and negative 3 times positive 4x will make a negative 24 and a negative 12x. Now I've completed my distributing. What's next? Well, can I combine like terms? Remember, you can only combine like terms if they lie on the same side of this inequality. Also, like terms either have to have the same variable or be numbers without variables. In this example, 10 and negative 24 are like terms, so I'll combine them. You can think of it as 10 minus 24 or 10 plus negative 24. Remember, same sign, take the sum, but different signs subtract. So 10 minus 24 becomes negative 14. And everything else just gets brought down. Now that I've combined like terms, I move on to the next question. Can I add or subtract something? I do this because I don't want to leave a variable on both sides if I'm trying to solve. So I'll have to move one of them. It's customary to move the variable to the left and move the numbers to the right. So I'll start with negative 12x. The opposite is positive 12x. Remember, negative 12x and positive 12x cancel each other out because it's the inverse. Now negative 2x plus 12x can be thought of as 12x minus 2x, which makes 10x. Now something has to move. Is it the 6 or the negative 14? Notice I chose the negative 6 because it's the opposite of positive 6. I have to subtract 6 from the other side. Negative 14 and negative 6 make negative 20 altogether. Same sign, take the sum. Last step. Do I have to multiply or divide? Well, 10 and x are together. Does that mean multiplication or does it mean division when a number and a letter are together? You guessed it, multiplication. So what's the inverse operation? That's right, division. So I have to divide both sides by 10. 10x divided by 10 leaves me with x. Negative 20 divided by positive 10 leaves me with negative 2. Before I choose my symbol for the inequality, I have to ask, did I divide or multiply by a negative? No, I divided by a positive, so I can keep the less than sign. Only if I divide or multiply by a negative do I have to switch it. So my final answer is x less than negative 2. Next, I'm going to solve the word problem. In this example, it says, Miss Duong drives 30 miles to work, which takes about 30 minutes, the equivalent to half an hour. Write an inequality for the speed that she must drive. Well, thank goodness I don't really drive 30 miles anymore, because because 30 minutes is way more of a commute in the morning than I want. So 30 miles in 30 minutes, what would be my speed? "30 miles in 30 minutes, what would be my speed?" Well, 30 minutes is equivalent to half an hour. I can use 0.5. This reminds me of the Roadrunner. Remember what he kicks up as Wile E. Coyote is chasing him? That's right, it's dirt. D equals RT. Looks like dirt. Distance equals rate times the time. Notice rate is also known as the speed. If I'm writing this inequality, I want to make sure that I get to work on time. So instead of using equal to, I want to make sure that my speed is greater than or equal to the necessary speed to make 30 miles in 30 minutes. I have to use the rate, so I'm going to have to divide distance by the time. I'm going to substitute the values into my inequality, replacing distance with 30 miles and time with half an hour. 30 divided by 1/2. Remember KFC, when dividing by a fraction, keep the first fraction, treat 30 as 30 over 1, flip the second fraction, the reciprocal of 1/2 is 2 over 1, and change division to multiplication. So 30 times 2 is 60, 1 times 1 is 1, and 60 divided by 1 is 60. So the rate is 60 miles per hour. The last example is solving for the compound inequality. What makes this a compound inequality is there's more than one inequality involved. And I'll graph the solution. I go back to asking myself the same questions. Can I distribute? Well, there's no parentheses, so I don't think I have to distribute. Well, then can I combine like terms? Can I put negative 2x and negative 10 together? Nope, I can't quite do that, because 10 doesn't have an x. So I have to start by adding or subtracting. Notice this time I have to add 10 to the negative 1, the positive 25, and the negative 10. Negative 10 and positive 10 cancel each other out. Negative 1 plus 10 is 9. Think of it as 10 minus 1. Drop down my negative 2x. Drop down my inequality signs and add 25 and 10 to make 35. Last step is to multiply or divide. Well, since negative 2 is being multiplied to x, I'll have to divide. Just remember, if you divide by a negative, you'll have to switch the inequality sign's direction. I can leave it as a fraction, or I can change it into a decimal. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 will cancel out to leave me just x. Negative 9 over 2 is negative 4.5. The less than sign becomes a greater than sign. My less than or equal to sign becomes a greater than or equal to sign, and 35 divided